Let's talk about one of the pivotal parts, though, I think, this entire thing. You talk about being coached hard. Somebody's been through a bunch. AJ has a question for you.
Nick, yeah, CJ Stroud obviously played unbelievable last year. You hear when people talk about quarterbacks going from year one to year two and these big jumps that they make. What have you done with CJ? What has he maybe done? Has he looked out to other people around? Because there's not a whole lot of people that have stepped in day one and played as well as he did for you guys. How is he going to make that jump from year one to year two?
Yeah, it's going to kind of go back to what I talked about a little bit earlier. It's going to take work, and it's going to get harder. Like anybody that is in the league year one that has some success, what you have to realize is what happened that previous year, in the end, doesn't have any bearing on that current year. But I'd say where he's probably improved the most is his just leadership and ownership of the offense, of the team. He wants to be great. And going back to holding the people accountable, establishing a standard, I mean, it starts with the quarterback. And then I think the big thing as well is just that position. I mean, you touch the ball in 99.9% of the plays. I mean, other than if you're getting, the Wildcat or something like that. But you have to be a good fiduciary to the team, take care of the football, make smart decisions, and sometimes do simple great. And I think sometimes it's hard for just quarterbacks in general to understand that concept. But mitigating risk is a part of your job, but also understanding there's a balance. You want to take some shots, you want to move the ball down the field, but you want to make the smart play. But, CJ's a great kid. He works really hard. He cares about winning. He cares about football. And I think his relationships with his teammates, not only on the offensive side of the ball, but the defensive side of the ball as well, has continued to grow. So it's going to take all of us. The quarterback is certainly an important position on a team, but he's just one part of the group here, and everybody just has to go out there and focus on the things that they do well, and then, we'll see where we are at the end of the game each week.
Everything that happened at Ohio State, set him up perfectly to be an NFL quarterback.
Yep.
He was mentally, emotionally, physically, everything. Football IQ-wise, with the way they run their offense over there, it's like he was the guy. We saw him, and I assume it happened for you whenever you're scouting, and I think you told the story of him coming in and talking to the entire scouting department and not changing at all from the person you had talked to before to that person to the next person. He knows exactly who he is. So, as a human, you got a chance to learn that then. We just, as football doofuses, we saw him take on Georgia in Georgia.
Yeah, in Atlanta.
In Atlanta, and it was the first 3 snaps, I think. We were standing on the field, and as somebody who had a front row seat to a lot of NFL football, at the position of punter, it's like you watch him move it right in front of you, and it's like, oh, yeah, that's an NFL guy right there. And then you see him flip, just an actual flick of the wrist with where he was putting the ball and off balance and how big he is. It's like, this is the guy. Then they try to send that bullshit out about that
S2
test,
cognitive test,
all this other shit, and it's like he's just been.
None of that matters in the end. How you play, and I would say just your emotional stability, your emotional control, and the ability to handle ups and downs. I mean, look, everything's not going to be perfect in this league. It's just not designed that way. So how you're able to push through those things. I mean, honestly, that'll probably be the biggest thing for our team. How we measure ourselves is, can we, deal with the ups and downs, understanding that, things went well last year, but what happened last year doesn't necessarily have any bearing on this year. And, we certainly have a big challenge in front of us, including week 1 against Indianapolis. So just take it 1 week at a time. I know it's cliche, but your emotional stability and emotional focus and control ultimately is going to dictate, how much success you have, along with your ability to go out there and play at a high level and execute.
Yeah, he's like a 45-year-old who happens to be the best teammate of all time. He came and did our show live whenever we were in Houston, wearing his teammates' clothing line. Could wear anything onto the show, knows he's going to be on the show. He's like, oh, yeah, this is D Tackle's clothing line. I've never heard of it before. I think he'd do great work. He looked incredibly cool. But
He'll probably have his own clothing line at some point.
I assume he's going to have a lot of shit as we go forward in the marketing world with how great he is and how good of a talker he is. Everything about him screams lead man for the Houston Texans. Now, you strengthen the roster around him, seemingly. Big move this offseason. Man's got a question for you.
Yeah, Nick, one of those moves was bringing in Stefon Diggs, and you just mentioned with D'Amico and the culture you guys are building. Do you kind of go through that with every single guy that you're either trading for or bringing in with free agency? And then with Diggs specifically, how did the 1-year contract decision come to be? Is that, you talking to Diggs about what he wants, whether, he wanted to continue out his contract that he signed with the Bills, or was it more so like, hey, this works best for both of us if we just make this thing a 1-year deal and we just go out there and win a Super Bowl?
I think the big thing is anytime you engage in contract negotiations, it's a two-way street, right? And I think at some point, both sides, a good agreement, a good final resolution is where everybody kind of feels like, all right, it's fair for both sides. So every situation is different. It's case by case. As we approach that one, we worked through it, and we felt that was the best way to handle it and approach it. We obviously talked to different people on other teams or other players. Case Keenum, who's here with us, had experience with Steph in Minnesota. I would say since he's been here in March, I mean, he's been great to work with. His attitude, his consistency, his work ethic, his competitiveness, his leadership, his ability to just go out there and focus on his job. And we've talked about this a little bit on the show. When people walk in our building, just be yourself. All right? We're not going to force you to be something that you're not. And what happens somewhere else, in the end, we're the Houston Texans, so we can't worry about what happened in some other locker room and other situation. None of us are in those buildings. All we can do is focus on our team, our situation. And then some of it's organic, like how it evolves and how it develops. And if there's something that needs to be addressed or discussed, then, that's where we just sit and talk and, hey, you know what, a little bit more of this, a little bit less of that. And again, treat them like adults and treat them like professionals. And I think we just try to establish an environment where you're your own person, be who you are. We trust, we believe in who you are. And if there's an issue, we'll address it like adults, and it's just conversational. It's not adversarial, if you will.
Yeah, we're trying to win here. That's all. We all have the same mindset. We're trying to win. Let's enjoy who we are, be who we are, but let's also win. We think this is the better way to go about doing that. And if you keep the open lines of communication, I think that's probably why the success has happened so quickly for you, because those uncomfortable conversations potentially viewed by some people are things that you have obviously not been scared to have. Like, for instance, did you chit-chat with the owner when he shotgunned that beer?
Oh, yeah.
Because he dumped a lot of beer.
I told him I don't know how to do that, so more power to him.
Yeah, well, he didn't either. A lot of beer was getting dumped out at the top, but I appreciate the effort. I appreciate.
And the hat.
And
Sounds like a really good concert, so I'll leave the shotgunning of beers to other people. That's not my cup of tea. I'll stay away from that.
Maybe one day, though.
Win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, let's not roll it
We'll
out.
see.
Yeah, you got that parade through Houston in the middle of February after
No parades. We're a long way from any parades taking place. So we're just trying to get on a bus to fly to Indianapolis in a couple weeks. So that's what we're worried about.
Yeah, you better strap it up, too. Speaking of strapping it up, a man who has done that for 15 years in WWE is here. Sheamus has a question for you, Nick Caserio.
Yeah, Nick, come on, man. What sort of attitude is that? You know what I mean? You're going in there. You're going in the first game of the season, man. You got to be thinking about the end game. You know what I mean? You got to think where you're going. You know what I mean? You got to be pumping that up, and that goal obviously is the Super Bowl, right? That has to be it.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, I think everybody has goals, and in the end, everybody plays to accomplish something, right? So when you get into WWE, your goal is to win a Universal Championship. So that's the goal. So how do you get to that point?
That's gone now, Nick. That's gone.
Or whatever it's called. So,
I got rid of that Universal thing. It's the WWE World Heavyweight
whatever it
Championship.
is. No. But in the end,
Go Hawk.
you have to focus on what's in front of you, and it's a combination of short term. And, look, everybody that plays competitive sports, they want to, ultimately, they have a goal in mind. And in each sport, there can only be one winner. So it just takes a series of events over time. But I would say if you have those goals, what are you doing in the interim to get you to that point? So that's where you got to focus on, all right, that might be the big picture, but did we have a good practice? Can we make the corrections? Do we come back the next day? Are we consistent with our habits? Are we consistent with our mindset? Can we go out there and have the right work ethic and do the right things that are conducive to winning? So, I mean, you get into sports to compete, and ultimately everybody has the same goal. But in the end, at the end of the year, there's only one team that can do it. So, we'll all be judged on how we perform, and it's going to come down to how well we execute on 17 Sundays. And if we put ourselves in a position, then ultimately the rest will take care of itself.